Hey guys, welcome to Gonk Gang. Today we want to break down our performance at the recent PQ in Stockport at Element Games. I've got Sam with me today, as we both
Hey
performed pretty
guys.
well. Uh, so I wanted to talk about my deck first, and then we'll talk about Sam's, and then we'll go on and we'll talk about the rest of the gang. So, of course, I brought Piet Red. Okay, if you're
Oh, classic Martin.
if you watch the channel for a while, talked about this deck a lot. Come on now, and I'll probably do a video on set six.
He plays a big ship. He loves it.
Yeah, play a big ship, and then next turn maybe overwhelming barrage. I don't know. I managed to get ninth with this deck, so
That's so frustrating, man. Getting
yeah,
the ninth.
just one off, man. Just one off top eight. It's fine. Uh, I won't go into the deck too much because you've probably already seen all this before. I think the last version of this deck, I had the invasion control ship still in the deck, but as we know, they don't really do anything, so they're gone now. But it's all pretty standard. It's all about the invisible hand package, of course. As many droids as you can get. Uh, and most of the time you want to start with just something like HK or whatever. Doesn't really matter. Then next turn you can resupply if you find it, or super laser tech. But if you don't find it and you find something else to do, it's not the end of the world, because I have started running multiple 5-drop capital ships as an extra thing to play on turn 3 if you don't ramp. So into things like aggro, sometimes I'd actually rather get open fire as my turn 2 to kill off their, say, I don't know, like more powerful units, just to make sure that I still save a lot of health on the base. Because sometimes ramping into something even bigger doesn't really matter when all your plan is just to play something with a good attack and an OB. So normally open fire into MC30 into OB is better than anything else. So yeah, everything else is pretty standard from what I've run before. If you know the deck, you know the game plan, so you can go watch another video on it from one of our other videos.
You got a set six update coming up soon as well, right?
Yes, sir.
For all the new cards.
Yep, there's quite a few interesting options. We'll get into that at some point, maybe even this week.
Nice. Can I just ask about the one salvage in the main? What did that come from?
Basically, I had one free slot and I didn't know what else to put it on. Like I was like, I didn't want another Turbo Laser Salvo or a Craving Power. I thought maybe another DRK, maybe another Relentless, but Relentless isn't too useful in a lot of matchups, and the
Yeah. Some
DRKs,
matchups it's really clutch, right? But then some matchups Relentless is just a resource every time, right?
yeah, because it's like I'd rather play Devastator or something. I mean, it is harder
Yeah,
to
something that
kill,
hurts
but
the board.
yeah. So I just decided to keep Salvage as sort of like a, think of it as like a fourth copy of all of the other capital ships that I actually like. A lot of time as well, it can be clutch to beat a control player by just salvaging Devastator back out and doing the 4 to base.
Yep. I also see there's no Merciless anymore, the Merciless contest. Why did you take that one out?
I just felt like it wasn't too good anymore. A lot of
Yep.
time as well, late game, if you use a Merciless, you can end up killing your own capital ships, which is like,
Yeah, you've got massive units, right? And in the late game, they might have something small, and that's a terrible. You just resource that then, don't you? You can't give up your big ship.
yeah. I mean, the whole idea was that if you're dealing with something like, I don't know, a pilot on a ship on the next turn, but most of the time you can't deal with it if it's like Chewbacca or something. But if it's like Han Solo on a Falcon, sure, that'd be good, but that's not really something that's getting played too often anymore.
Yeah, I think it's starting to come back, but it's right now it's not quite hit its maximum again. But you've got the Traitorous for that as well, which is a very nice counter if they throw Chewie in a Falcon. I'm assuming you can just resupply and then start the next turn by stealing the Falcon.
Yeah, it was a bit of a meta call in that, like, sort of what should be main deck and what should be sideboard. So anything to deal
Yep.
with those kind of decks where they just make a giant, like, piloted unit, I had to keep stuff like that in the sideboard to deal with that, because I assume that's not going to be the most common type of deck I run into.
Yeah, and the triple confiscate because like upgrades are everywhere right now, right? Everyone's running the General's Blades, Jedi lightsabers, the pilots.
Yeah, but any upgrades like Jedi's and General's Blade, the DRK can deal with that, which probably is my biggest mistake with this version of the deck. Is like, I think I should have run 3 of. It would have been
Yeah, I
quite useful.
think especially with the meta that ended up being an element, like a third DRK probably would have done work. Even killing stuff like Craving Power, that happened to me a few times.
Yep, and bounties, because there's a few bosks, as we
Yep.
know.
I wonder why.
Yeah, so I probably would have maybe gotten rid of the salvage for a DRK instead, if I was to change
Yeah, I
anything.
think I think you've really refined this deck, though. I think this is like, about as good as it gets, to be honest. I know there was another Piet that finished a bit higher. He was in the final, and you had a very similar deck list there, minus a few cards. So I feel like Piet Red is a real underdog right now that can definitely put out performances. It just sometimes can fold to its own hand.
Yep.
Sometimes you just don't draw the right tools in the first three turns, and you're kind of out.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people who are sort of floundering on Boba Data Vault now, and people are looking for something to play instead, because everyone's countering Boba Data Vault. I think this would be a nice natural progression to play instead.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like a side grade to Boba. I think it's like it runs such a similar style of deck, but they both achieve different things.
Yeah, not quite as much burn, but much better late game.
Yeah, I'd agree. Yeah, it's definitely a sweet deck, and definitely one I think gets better next set as well, which is exciting.
It seems to just keep getting better and better.
Yep, it's Star Wars, man. They keep printing capital ships. It's what it's all about.
Oh, my dream. Should we get into matchups then?
Yeah. Let's go through your performance.
So, we start the day off against a Previs LeBlue.
That's a crazy one.
Yeah. When I first saw this, I thought, oh, Previsler, I don't even know what he does. I literally had to ask him just to double check and read what Previsler does. And I thought, oh, this isn't really anything. And then proceed to him have 20 cards in hand or something insane and just constantly removing all my stuff. But as you see, I won 2-0. I managed to just keep pushing the damage. Even
I think you've got the burn plan there, right?
Yeah. Even all the blue removal in the world couldn't handle just the amount of just junk I was throwing out.
Raiders is also probably the key card, right?
Yeah.
He only has no glory that cleanly kills it.
Yep. And in fact, both games actually came down to late on, as we were getting to the turns where he was starting to vigilance and stuff. I actually got relentless out both games, and that was.
Oh, I bet that felt good.
Yeah, that was the finishing thing. In fact, I think in one game I even salvaged it back out after he, because he would use restock to burn the relentless and then kill relentless with an event, and then next turn just salvage it back out. So I felt good about having relentless in the main deck, one copy.
Yeah, one of I think if you run into these control decks is a real nice a feeling for you. You just slam that down and they just can't get rid of it now.
Yep, it can be quite hard to find though because there's only one of, but it's not
true.
worth having more of than that in the main at the moment. Next, hand 2 blue.
A classic.
I think there's a matchup that a lot of people might struggle with, but I've actually got quite a bit of practice into this matchup. So I felt like I knew exactly what to do, whereas unfortunately for my opponent, I think he even told me that he hasn't really played against a Piet before. So
I don't think it's a particularly common deck. I don't think it's popular at weeklies or anything. I think it's quite a niche deck, but a powerful one as we see.
Yeah, I think that's probably one of its main factors is that it's got a good surprise factor going on. And people just see it and they assume it's like Boba, and they just try and get through the initial push. But
yep,
it just gets better and better for Piet as late as you go on. But he did manage to take one, and mostly just because hand 2 is still an amazing deck.
I assume in that game that he won, he probably just flooded out with the units, played them all with damage on them, and then kept you off your first big ship or something like that.
Yeah, I think it was multiple Lukes, multiple Ganakins, Mauls, not Mauls, Mace Windus.
Luke and Anakin match up really nicely into the 6 health ships, right? The Invisible Hand dies to Luke and Anakin, and so does the Devastator.
Devastator, yep.
Yep.
And he can even use Grogu to move 2 damage, which you think isn't much, but a lot of the time that is enough damage.
Oh, that card is crazy.
Yeah, that kills any droid, okay, which isn't that important, but early on it can be. But then, if he damages a ship enough, he can just use takedown and finish it off.
And you can rarely even open fire it because they'll just deal 2 damage and heal it back up to a 1/6 straight away, and then you can't, and you don't want to waste an OB damage on that because it's got so much HP.
It just soaks it all up, and planetaries without Devastator, it's kind of awkward.
Yeah, agreed. I think that's a real strong start for the hand if he gets it out against this deck.
But I managed to push through just because I've played the matchup quite a lot.
Nice.
Kira next. This was my first loss against Gollum. I think this might have been my favourite game of the whole day, to be honest. Even though I lost, it just felt but all 3 games were so close, and they came down to one mistake or.
Yeah, they're the best games, even if you lose.
The thing that probably haunt me forever is so I won the first game, and then in the second game, we both played out Super Laser Tech. He had initiative, so he claimed. He killed his own Super Laser Tech with Pershing, which puts him up to 5 resources. I played the Dornian gunship, and I thought about playing indirect damage to myself to damage my super laser tech, so I could bring it in. But then I was greedy and I wanted to do the one indirect to him and then attack into his base with the super laser or do something like that. And yeah, punished for that because he just played no glory and killed the super laser tech and stole it for
That
himself.
is rough.
That pretty much decided the game. Although it was still
Yeah.
close, like I say, it got so close that I think that was the mistake that cost me the game there easily.
Yeah, that sucks, but I think you've learned from that as well there. I think you'll know in the future.
Yeah, I don't know why I didn't think it was going to happen, but you know. But yeah, that was a great game. We had a good conversation afterwards about the next set. So, Poe Dameron. What's funny about this Poe Dameron guy is I sat next to him when I was playing the Han in game 2, and we were like joking about each other's decks, and we were like, "Oh, I really want to play this matchup," and then we ended up playing against each other later on in the day. So that was pretty cool. This matchup is pretty close. I think it just comes down to how many OBs and Turbo Laser Salvos and Craving Powers I draw. And in this case, in the first game, I drew 1 Craving Power, which won me the game. And then for the next 2, I didn't draw a single OB or Turbo Laser Salvo or Craving Power.
That's unlucky.
There was just nothing I could do. He was just putting out way too much damage. And by the time I managed to wipe his board, I was on like 2 health left. So there was like nothing I could do.
What was cool about this Poe deck as well, because I played against it as well. I'll just chime in on it. It's a Poe yellow, which you don't see very often, and they're playing like super wide, playing all 1-drop ships, and they're all playing odd cost cards for the Boshek payoff. So they're going super wide. So like 1 OB can completely just wipe their game plan, but if you don't see it, you are gonna get swarmed and lose.
Yep, absolutely. I think that's pretty much the same against all, like, I was going to say space aggro, but maybe just all aggro in general, to be honest.
Yeah, I think you're right there.
But yeah, after that game, I did speak to him, and he said he was originally going to bring Piet Red himself to the tournament, so he just a last-minute change. And we sort of talked about the deck a bit and a few ideas, so it was a good time. Next, a classic. I played against the Sabine, which I don't actually think there was that many Sabines at the tournament.
No, it wasn't too popular, weirdly enough.
No, I think because, you know, everyone knows how to play against it now, and I think a lot of aggro in general is sort of falling out of favour a little bit for the more.
Yeah, I think Hand 2's pushing out the aggro decks right now, so.
Yeah. But it was good to see a classic, and once again, this is another matchup where obviously I've had a lot of experience in fighting, although I have struggled against the set 5 one a lot. I think the addition of even Yoda's lightsaber and stuff like that has been quite...
It's just that quick pressure from the lightsaber. It comes out even earlier than other
Yeah.
stuff used to.
It just pushed the needle a little bit further into Sabine's favour in the matchup, but lucky for me, I don't think he found a single one in all 3 games, so sometimes the draws are just poor for me, and then they're poor for someone else when I play him later, you know. And yeah, every time it was like I'd get my OBs or I'd get open fires and just wipe out the board, and there was pretty much no coming back from that. And you know it's bad when we're on like turn 4 and they're already throwing out the 4 causes, so...
Oh yeah, if you're throwing out for a cause and it's not for lethal, it feels real bad. You're not advancing the board at all.
Yeah, when I've got like 12 health left on base and you're throwing out the second for a cause, you know, I'm fine with that.
You're feeling pretty good there, aren't you? They're not developing a threat, and you're just kind of like, well, I've still got 10 health cushion. I'm going to be okay.
Yeah. And I think it's simply because I had no ground units for him to play his Wrecker or Poe into with ECL, so...
Yep, stops that big burn.
Yeah, once Piet was dead, there was like no reason for me to put any ground units down, so... another Hand 2, this time Hand 2 green. I actually like this deck a lot. I thought it was pretty cool to see.
That's Green Force, right? Yeah.
Yeah, Green Force. So
that's cool.
You don't see the green one as much, although I think it has started to crop up a fair bit.
Yeah, I think it's a real fight between the ECL and the Green Force. Like everything's working with Hand 2 at the moment.
Yep. Hand 2 is just such a powerful ability that, like,
yeah,
I'd say you could almost run him in any color, but I think these are the 2 best, clearly.
Yeah, I think clearly they're the standouts. But I have seen a yellow one which goes like turbo on the discard. That was kind of crazy as well. So
yeah, these were fun matches. Obviously, they were quite. Well, the first one was like not really close. I drew exactly what I needed every turn, and it was just burned straight through his base. His 28 health kind of hurts him a lot. Not as much as 25, but he had no answers.
Yeah, when you sit down against a 25, 27, 28 base, you're so much happier than 30 or 33 with Piet, right? Because
Yeah.
you just like a Devastator can come down, threaten like 13 damage in like 2 actions.
Yeah, my only fear with that is like running into Sabine. That's the only time where I'm like,
Yeah,
if I don't draw right, then they're gonna go way faster than me and they're gonna burn me.
100%. Yeah,
um, but yeah, in the second game it was much closer because he managed to get not Grogu, what's his name, Gungi, with the General's Blade on turn two. And
that's the worst. That's the worst nightmare of every deck.
yeah, I was like, I have no answers. That was the one moment I think in the whole tournament where I was like, I still wish I had Merciless. It was right there
Yeah,
because I would have easily just been able to answer that. But instead, best I could do was like just take all the damage until I get Devastator down, and I managed to get there. I think my base had like 2 health left on it by the time I managed to
that's
kill
crazy.
his. Like
I'm
it's
surprised you managed to win that one, like getting hit for 5 every turn, and he's getting a cost reduction, which is the crazy thing because it stacks with the Han ability, so it can cost 3 less. Like,
yeah.
I'm surprised you survived that. That's impressive.
Well, the only way I'd managed to is because of the clutch. I think I told you about it. The the turbo laser salvo on the
Oh
Devastator
yeah,
to wipe. I think it was like 6 units off the board.
that is insane.
That is like sometimes turbo laser salvo. You're like, this is the worst card. I hate this. This does nothing. And then other times you're like, this is the best card ever printed.
Yeah, I think it's a poor man's OB sometimes, and sometimes it's literally like you say, it kills like 7 units.
Yeah, absolutely beautiful card. Um, and then to finish off the whole tournament, it's a bit weird. I have a Piet mirror.
There's
Uh,
only 3 Pits in the room, I think, so getting the mirror in the final round's kind of crazy.
yeah, and all three Piets did really well. So
They really did, yeah. It was actually a surprise winner of the day, I'd say.
yeah. But this matchup was interesting. He had initiative in the first round and the second round. Uh, I thought that would be the decider, but it didn't end up being because I couldn't even say that like he found the ramp and I didn't, or the other way around. We both found ramp. We both found the same ships. In fact, on the 5 resource turn, he played out Ruthless Raider, and I didn't have any capital ships to play on 5, so I just went, resupply again? And that ended up
Okay,
working
yeah.
out because I played the red Devastator, and then the next turn, the green Devastator, because my Piet was still alive.
Oh wow, so you got the green Devastator out like 3 or 4 turns early. That's
Yep.
probably absolutely huge in that matchup because of the Sentinel.
And that's game because he just like he played down his red Devastator, and then I have either ways to answer. I just claimed I didn't even attack with the red Devastator. I claimed right there because I knew he was probably gonna play a planetary or something. So I just claimed and then OB'd on my own green Devastator and wiped his board.
Yeah, so I think the green red villain matchups in the mirror, it just comes down to who can stop the biggest OB. Like if you get the big OB that kills their thing, like you're in such a good spot.
Yep. So that game was literally just he had big ships, but I had bigger ships. So there you go.
Classic Piet.
Yep. Sideboards came in, and his was I think because he didn't sideboard in the Relentlesses like I did. I don't know if
Oh, I'm surprised by that.
yeah. I think I'm trying to think what he put in. Oh, he put in salvages, I think, which I
Yep, definitely salvages.
I didn't bother putting mine in, but I already had the one in the main, so I just thought that'd be enough.
Yeah,
And I think that's what came down to winning the game anyway, because I managed to play out. I think it was the Invisible Hand. I think we both ramped the same. We were both like almost the same. He played an MC30, then I played mine. And then the next round, he OB'd to kill my Piet, and then I just OB'd my MC30 to kill his MC30. And then it was after that, it was like downhill for him from then there.
yeah.
And I played out the Relentless to stop any planetaries or anything, so there was nothing you can do there. But yeah, it just came down to draws. I mean, that's the mirrors for you. That's just all it is.
Yeah, 100%.
But all in all, great tournament. Managed to finish ninth, sure. Why not?
Just slightly bubbled out. That's I remember them reading it out and stuff, and they're like ninth, and I was like, "There's just no way."
Yeah,
Like you were the highest player that like wasn't guaranteed top 8, right? So
yeah.
just bubbled out.
And we were even joking about it, I think. Like, while the final game was still going on, we were all standing waiting for that to finish. I was like, I bet you I get ninth. And then there it was. Oh well. Better luck next time.
Yep, I think it shows that the deck is good though, and I think you're gonna have a nice performance in Munich off the back of this. I hope.
Yep, hopefully. And we'll have a video up on Munich once we've done that as well.
Awesome.
Now should we move on to Sam?
Yep, sure.
Perform slightly better. Go on.
Yep, so this is the deck I decided to take. It was a bit of a last minute choice. I think I decided like on the Tuesday before that I was just kind of just going to play something different. Normally I'm playing Cad Bane Tarkentown, but I haven't been playing it a ton this set, so I thought let's go back to a leader I really enjoyed back in like set two. So I thought let's play Bosk, and I had a look around, and I built like a Data Vault deck, and it just wasn't working. And then like a holy grail, it appeared like the Swoop Races video, the Bosk ECL, and I just fully yoinked that deck, and then grinded Carabas for a couple of days to get used to it, and I had a ton of fun with this deck. It's a really, really sweet deck. It looks so random. It
Yep.
runs like loads of one-ofs, and it runs like very few new cards, really. Like it looks like a set two deck with like a few upgrades.
I think that's just
But
because of Smuggle and Bounty not really getting
exactly, yeah,
continued, right?
they're not getting continued, and obviously Bosk likes both of those mechanics. But it's a really, really sweet deck, and I managed to end up coming seventh, so I made it into top eight. But unfortunately, lost my first game in top eight against Big O Nation, who was actually the other player on Bosk ECL, and we both realised that we both stole the deck on the same day from the Swoop Races. So, hey, it comes down to it. We both had a fun time. We were both absolutely baffled about what was going to happen in the mirror, and it was a very, very tense game. But it was awesome. I really enjoyed the deck though. I'll quickly just go through it. Like you're going for like the double one drop starter. You're literally trying to just get out like two Stormtroopers on turn one, or a Guardian and a Stormtrooper to go against control decks or decks that are a bit slower. So you can just continuously push damage and you avoid stuff like Power of the Dark Side and one for one trades. Or you either start like Dengar plus a bounty and try and get an early claim on the Bounty Hunter's Quarry, which is still, I think, such an insanely underplayed card. Like I know hand two green started to play it because like one cost for like to get a three cost unit is just insane, especially with some of the stats of three cost units these days, like 3/5s, 4/4s, you know. Or I think the main one in this deck is also just getting out Super Laser Tech a turn early. Like it just goes crazy. And of course, if you get the double claim with Bosk on the Bounty Hunter's Quarry, I think that's a hard game to lose, if I'm honest.
That's the classic win
Um,
condition. That.
oh, it's just insane. Like I remember there was a game in the day where I on turn five I did nothing but play Bounty Hunter's Quarry, flip Bosk, and then throw Bosk into a unit to claim the bounty. He survived on like one health, but I got the double claim. I did nothing else that turn, and then I won that game because that's how good that card is when you double claim it. It's insane. So yeah, you're going for the double one drop start into the turn two ramp from Super Laser Tech, or just playing a well statted unit like the Knight of Ren or the Punishing one, which obviously synergizes really well with the bounties, or Toro Calican. There's a little bit of resets you can do in this deck with Dengar and IG-11 by standing him back up, but more or less he's just a 3/5. And then you actually run no four drops. You go for a 3 plus a 1 normally, or 2/2s, and then you're looking then for your big turn, which is your Bosk flip. You're running almost the full six, between Barrage and Craving Power. You're trying to just get off a crazy turn, push loads of damage to base. This deck is insanely fast. It doesn't even look fast, which is the crazy thing, but it goes incredibly fast. If I was winning games, I was winning them on like the 6 resource turn, um, by Bosk pushing so much damage to base. And if you put a Craving Power on him and claim a bounty, and then go 6 to base, it just goes crazy. And then the sweet part about this is it's an aggro deck that has a really, really nice top end. You get the 3 Ruthless Raiders, the 3 Mauls, and the 3 Devastators, which are all giant threats that push damage to base. So it just gets you over that edge. And then, of course, you've got ECL to try and get you throughout the game, which you often actually use on turn 2 to ECL in a Super Laser Tech or a Knight of Ren to claim a bounty and just stay ahead on board the whole game. So it's a super, super aggro, tempo heavy deck that tries to end the game early, but manages to run some late game cards, thanks to the ramp cards it runs in the main. But it's a really, really cool deck, really unique. And then the sideboard is just kind of tailored against some of the meta stuff. You've got the Fang Fighters because, like as we said in Martin's half, the upgrades are absolutely everywhere. This deck does not do well into like turn one Falcon, into turn two Chewbacca in the Falcon. Your red green villain, you have very limited options. You need to stop the upgrades. It's another reason I run the Eager Escort Fighter. If they play a Falcon on turn one, or something, or a 4 health unit on turn two, I can just ambush into it straight away. It's essentially like another copy of Open Fire, but it's maybe even better because the Bounty Hunter's Quarry can search it up as like removal almost because it's a 3 or less cost, which feels nice. You've got Pillage for the slower matchups, where you need to kind of strip their hand because your hand is often very small. You often resource a card and have one card to play for the turn in this deck because you're running so many one-ofs and one-drops and stuff. The Timely Reinforcements, that's the one card I actually didn't sideboard in all day. I don't think I fully understand its use other than just jamming up the space arena when your opponent's ramping, or against the decks that, go heavy in space like Vader. Although you probably saw as well, Martin, Vader was like non-existent in element games.
There was
I don't
one, I
know.
think.
Yeah, like, which is crazy. You think of Vader Yellow as being like a meta contender, but he just wasn't really there at all. But there was a lot of aggro though, just not space aggro, but maybe they were playing the Poe Dameron and stuff like that instead. And then
Yeah.
the Crate Dragon's just, I'll throw that down, and if I haven't won the game by now, maybe this just gets me over the edge kind of thing. So, I mean, that's a brief overview of the deck. Like I said, it's not my deck. I did absolutely steal it from the Swoop Races, so check out their video. But it's a really, really cool brew by them, and I really respect the deck. So, should we quickly go over my matchups?
I was going to say though, if you were to change this deck in any way, because I know you
Yeah,
don't like one drop or one offs as much normally in your decks,
yeah,
you
yeah.
prefer the consistency. So is there anything you
Yeah,
would
I'm
change
definitely more of
or?
a consistent guy. Well, I think the stuff like Hot Shot as a one-off, that's absolutely fine because you're just playing it for that like one use per game, and just trying to finish the game. Same with the Arm to the Teeth, so I don't mind them. I think in the current meta, I'd probably up the Fang Fighters in the main. It's not the end of the world if you play it on turn two, but also the amount of times I would like go turn two, like ECL a Fang Fighter to destroy an upgrade and kill a space unit to get me ahead on board is crazy. So maybe I'd run some more of them in the main, and then maybe I'd bump up the MC30 to 2 and cut another card somewhere because it was a real nice card because obviously it's a great barrage target, but it's also a really nice ECL target against stuff like Boba or even Piet, I think,
Yep.
because 6 health in space is such a crucial number at the moment.
That kills pretty much all the
So,
5-drop capital ships,
yeah,
which the end of that
all the
matters.
5-drop capital ships, and even better if like they're playing like Dornian because you survive as well, and then Boba doesn't have anything to flip onto. So I think the MC30 is a card I'd maybe bump up to 2 of. IG11's an all-star in this deck, even though I feel like he's a card that's making a bit of a comeback right now because of the amount of hand twos around. They have a lot of damaged units, and then also he can ambush into Han and then kill the unit they've cheated out early. So he feels really, really nice. But there's definitely some one-offs I would change, but that's only because of the meta I saw on the day. I'm sure the creators of this deck know a lot more about it than I do. So let's quickly go into the matchups then, and I'll quickly talk through those.
Here we are.
So, yep, round one, I went against Dan Jackson, a guy who I've spoke to plenty of times at tournaments before. He's a really nice guy, and he was on Thrawn Red Force, which is a really cool deck. I think in this matchup, though, I was just way too fast for him. I think Thrawn Red Force is a really cool deck, but he was playing a more control version rather than like the burn version you enjoy, Martin.
Yep.
So I was able to just kind of race ahead of him, and this was the game actually where I did the Bosk flip into just claiming a double bounty. So I only paid one resource that turn, and then I actually ended up winning the turn after because that's how much pressure that bounty can put on the board. I think I got 2 Knights of Ren out that turn alongside Bosk, and he had no units left on board, so that just went really rough for him. Although the only thing that was doing me in this matchup was him no glorying my super laser tech. I think, like you said, it happened to you.
Seems
Um,
familiar.
yeah, it's a bit of a blowout. Obviously, they get to ramp, he flips out Thrawn. I didn't get to ramp, and then I'm stuck. So, unfortunately, I think it's a bit of a rough matchup for him. I was just a bit too fast. So that was game one. Game two was a hand to blue. Um, Not a matchup that I knew super well with the deck, but it is obviously a deck that we know very well and we've played against a ton. So I think we've kind of got it on lock what they're doing. We know what kind of things could be, coming out at certain times. And I was able to once again just push through the damage. Stuff like Chirrut sometimes can get in the way, but if you draw a Craving Power, kill the Chirrut, and then you get to hit base for 6, it's such a blowout because you removed their Sentinel and you even got to push extra damage to base. So turns like that, and then obviously all their damaged units are perfect pickings for bounties. If they're bringing out a 2/4 as a 2/2, boss can kill that so easily and claim a bounty. So I think it's quite well matched into the meta, to be honest, against the hand twos running around everywhere.
Yeah, I was going to say it was a good choice by you and a big notation as well because
Yep.
obviously hand 2 is the most popular deck right now, right? So
Yeah, I think by far he's running around with blue, ECL, green force. So I think stuff like Cad Bane, he's very well matched up into hand because of all the spread damage. And then I think also Boss because he has targeted ping, which not many leaders actually have targeted ping. Obviously, you have to draw the bounty. But between ECL, IG11, and bounties, I think he has a really nice matchup into hand too. Maybe the ECL's a tougher matchup because of like Wrecker and Poe, but I think that overall it's a nice matchup for the boss deck. So game 3, I was actually invited to go onto the stream table, which I've never done. I think you've done it before, right, Martin?
Yeah, all the way back in Manchester. That was like
Very nice, yeah.
over a year ago.
Yeah, I've never actually played on a stream table, which was cool. Obviously, organized play events were hosting the event, and they had a stream table and plenty of casters and stuff. So it was cool to go into the stream room, and it was nice and quiet in there actually, because Element Games is such a busy store. They had like a Warhammer tournament going on as well, so it was nice to go in there. It was all quiet, and my opponent, Henry, I actually know him quite well. We've traded loads of times, and we always talk. He's from the same group as Dan Jackson, so we kind of went in there and just, we had a nice talk, we had a little mess around, and we had a good time on stream. You can obviously go back and watch that game if you care enough, but unfortunately, he was playing his Maul deck, which is a really sweet deck, and he actually has done really well with it. I think he's like the only guy that plays set three Maul and has done well. But he wasn't able to get off the ground because I'm essentially doing the same thing he is, like trying to stick a big, unit and OB it. But I'm just doing it faster than he is. Um, every time he would bring out a unit, I would just kill it and then continue to push damage to base with my other units. And then when he flipped Maul, I was able to either OB Maul or just ECL and throw IG-11 into him. So I think it's just an unfortunate matchup as I'm just going faster than he is, and I managed to 2-0 that one. Next was my first loss in Swiss, was against Luke Skywalker, the pilot on Data Vault, which I did not expect to see at the top table. But I think he was like the only guy there on it that day, and I can't lie, this was my hardest match of the day. The spaceships, like he's only running space units, and I run like maybe like a couple in the main deck that are like early game. So I really struggled into this, and this is where I did wish I had the more Fang fighters in the main, as the games where I drew the Fang fighters were the ones I was winning because I was able to destroy the upgrades on the ships.
Yep.
The Chewbaccas, the Luke Skywalkers,
You obviously
even
can't
the
deal with the leader,
R2D2.
but anything
Yeah,
else is
can't deal with
just
the leader, but I'm trying to go faster than the Luke leader. Obviously, it's a six deploy, but most games I was getting him to about 24 by the time Luke flipped out, and obviously on Data Vault that's still like another 9 or 10 to get through, and that's when my deck I think started to lose some steam. And then once Luke's out in a fighter, he's hitting me for like 6, 7, 8 and dealing damage to my units. So the race would flip kind of in his favor very, very quickly, unless I drew Raiders or Devastators. So I actually ended up losing this match. I took a game off him, but the game I didn't see OB or Fang Fighters was the one that absolutely put the nail in the coffin. But it was a really sweet deck, and the guy was super nice, so I was happy for him. And it was a really, really sweet match, super, super close. Like there was one action in most games, and those are always, like we said, really, really fun.
yeah. It's always cool
Um,
to see a Luke deck go far. I always like seeing those.
yeah, I love it when a surprise deck does well, shall we say. Next is the same guy you played against, right? The Poe Dameron Yellow.
Yep, exactly the same.
Yep. I know that those guys were on like a little bit of a team. There was three of them all playing the exact same Poe Dameron yellow on like on the odd cost only kind of thing. And I know that me and you were both like, "Oh, I'm gonna die to a surprise strike," and then
Yep.
we found out afterwards they don't even run it because it's not an odd cost for Boshek.
Yeah, I know. That was like I remember saying the one game I went against him, I was like, oh damn, if you drew a surprise strike, you would have absolutely won that. And I remember him like sort of not saying anything, and at the end of the game, he goes, "Yeah, I don't run it."
I kind of wish you told me now because I wouldn't have been panicking about surprise strike. You left me on pins there, Martin.
Ah, sorry, bro.
You're trying to ruin my day, but it was a really, really cool deck, and these guys are super nice. So I'm glad they did well with their like homebrew Poe Dameron Yellow. They said it originally started out as obviously the odd cost hand, but they just found that Poe was able to put on the pressure earlier, and also he threatens that turn where like he's in a spaceship and then you suicide it and then he's on the ground. So we obviously know that's a super powerful turn for Poe. So I managed to win that one 2-0 just thanks to OB, really. OB and Craving Power are absolutely all stars. The ones you didn't see, I was able to draw them, Martin. I'm afraid that's just a skill issue on your part,
Come on,
and you
man.
need to get better at the game, man.
I need to mark my
Come
cards
on.
like you, man.
Well, you just if you play them in different sleeves and no one notices, you just win most games. So
That
just
is
get used
true.
to it, man. Come
That
on.
is an expert play.
Remember to always check your opponent's sleeves, guys. Next game was against Yoda Green Force, which is a deck I thought would be way more represented at Element Games. I know it's kind of like a strong contender for the hero control deck in the meta right now. I think Yoda's a really great leader. His flip turn is insane, but unfortunately, this matchup absolutely crumbled for this guy. I literally won most games like on the six resource turn after boss got flipped. He didn't even get to Yoda in either game. The deck is way too fast, and he was opening most games with a space unit, and I just ignored it the whole game until I wanted to claim a double bounty off it. Basically, I was just leaving it in space as bait for the punishing one to ECL and claim a bounty. So I think that was a rough matchup for him. Once again, the only card that was really doing anything was like Chirrut, but I'm able to clear through that and just push more damage to base. Next game was against Buku, who's a really good player. As you can see, we just took the draw here because we were both guaranteed top eight. I do not like the whole intentional draw thing to get into top eight, but if it's unfortunately, it's the right thing to do. And I think the top three tables all did it at the exact same time. And we all guaranteed top eight off that because that's just the way it is right now.
Yeah,
So we'll have to wait and see if that ever gets changed. But I
it
think most of the card games just have this too, right?
it's
So,
something that like everyone does, right? And you also don't want to be the
yep.
one guy to be like, no, I actually want to try and beat you and
Yeah,
eliminate you from the tournament when you
yeah,
sit
it
down
just
with your
feels like
opponent.
such a dick move. Like they sit down, like I spoke to Buku and he was like, "Do you want to just intentionally draw? We're guaranteed." Like I couldn't imagine going to him like, "Nah, let's play it out," and one of us doesn't make top eight. Like you feel like such a dick.
Yeah.
So that's more of a problem with card games in general. But we took the draw and we were guaranteed top eight, so I got to chill for an hour or so there and just take it easy. Well, I'm sure you were sweating your ass off.
Yeah, I guess so.
So then obviously that got me into top eight, and then I got against the only other Bosk ECL in the room going into top eight, which was Big O Notation, who is probably like one of the best UK players. I think he's got one of the most points in the UK at least on the leaderboards. He kind of goes around all the PQs and farms some points because he wants to go to Galactics. He's a great player. So we both stole the deck, like I said, and these games were insane. We spent half the game just passing and then using Boss to do a soft pass because neither of us wanted to give away an ECL on a bounty. So I think it was a really skill intensive matchup. I think he ended up coming out on top because he just kind of maybe edged me out a little bit better, but it did come down to one action in the final game where it was he slammed down a Devastator, dealt four to base, I had to claim. And if I drew OB, I had a Maul out, and I would clear his Devastator and then go lethal to base. But I didn't see it off the top. So that's just the way it crumbles sometimes, unfortunately. I think the matchup very much came down to who got the better OB/ craving power and also who made the first mistake on who gave away a bounty. So really, really cool game, but not a game I would like to play all the time. A mirror match with this deck was absolutely wrecking my head at how late it was in the day as well. I think we've been playing for about 8 or 9 hours at this point, so we were exhausted.
Yep.
But those were my games. They were a lot of fun. What have we got coming up next? We're going to talk about some other performances, or
We can talk about the rest of the gang. So this is how Dom did. Dom brought his Boba Fett Data Vault. It's the same sort of deck he played back in Set 4 at Games Expo, which is, I think, is that his best performance, his Games
yeah, I
Expo?
think that's his best performance so far. He's done really well on this deck, and I think he's kind of gone on and off this deck for a while now. But I know that he is a fan of it, like in his back pocket, and he does normally bring it out when there's a big competition on the line.
Yep, absolutely, and it's a good deck to have. And
Yeah,
I think it's good to have a lot of experience in it because also when you end up against it, that's always good if you're running
yeah,
something like
it's a
this.
hard matchup to play against as it is to play as well. I think this deck.
Yep.
I think what you can see here is that not much has changed since last time. I think this set didn't give it a ton of new power, but it was already a naturally strong deck. I think the new set gave it obviously HK47 as the new two drop.
Yep. Craving power.
Yeah, craving power is probably the other main thing. I'm surprised he's not running more copies, but maybe that's a bit of a meta call because if you don't stick a ship and then you draw a craving power, it's just a dead card.
Yep.
But obviously this deck puts on a ton of pressure. It manages to clear the opponent's threats and still push damage to base. Obviously against control decks, it's putting a ton of indirect on their base as well, and it's a very space heavy deck. He's got the strong start with the Allegiant General Pride and the First Order Stormtroopers, and then he's got the big finishers, like the Devastators, the Dornian gunships, the Ruthless Raiders, and I think even Fett's Fire Spray is basically just a mini Ruthless Raider, right? Like it's such a strong card in this deck.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of people are jumping ship off of this deck, which I find interesting because I think it is still strong, but I wonder if it's just because everyone sort of knows what the game plan this deck is. The surprise factor's gone, which I think was a big part of how this deck sort of exploded in popularity.
Yeah, I think it came out of nowhere. It surprised everyone, and now it's a known entity. So maybe people are starting to jump ship a bit.
Yep, I think a lot of people. It's similar to how Hand Two is might be the most popular deck, but still a lot of people know how to fight against it. I think the same thing's
Yeah,
happened here. Maybe this deck isn't
yeah,
as strong as that one, but
yeah. Maybe not as strong, but I think what you see is that when you go to an event, sometimes playing a little bit off meta is worth a lot of power. You know what I mean? Like not many people play against Piet, and I think Bosk ECL is a deck that no one's really playing right now. It was like a it's like a week-old video that some people put up. You know what I mean? Like
Yep.
these decks catch people off guard, and that's worth a lot. They're not sure what's going to happen, and I think people, like you said, play against Boba Fett, and they know what's going on. Whereas Piet, they're like, I'm not sure where this is going, and then all of a sudden your late game's even scarier than Boba's ever was.
Yep.
So
And even the popularity of MOBA helped the Piet deck in a way because everyone just
yes,
expects
I
it to be
think
the
so.
same thing, but it's not.
Yeah.
Um,
So it's a sweet deck, and I think Dom did quite well on the day. He managed to come 40th overall,
yep.
correct?
And
Yep.
we have his opponents here. Of course, he started the day playing against the person who ends up winning the entire tournament and even eliminating Sam.
Yep. So there's our main rival for the day there. He managed to knock him out, but he started by getting 2-0'd by it, which I think losing your first game 2-0 does feel kind of rough. I know that puts you on a bit of a downer for the day.
But you can't really blame him though because that is
No,
like
you can't blame him at all.
he's one of the
We
best
all have had
players
that feeling.
around. Yeah.
Yep. So, and then it went into Han Solo, the Smuggler version, which is the set one version on Dagobah Swamp, which is a deck, obviously, that's not like it's a bit of an off-meta deck, shall we say. He's very easily able to enable the Anakin by defeating his heroic resources, which is his villainous resources, sorry, which is
Yep.
really cool. And I think this probably deck just caught him off guard. Maybe it's probably not one he knows how to play against.
Yeah, it used to be a very popular deck, but that was many sets ago, and ever
Yeah,
since
we're
then,
talking like set one, right?
yep, it's been completely dwarfed by like Hand 2 as a bit more efficient resource cheating.
Yep,
So,
agreed.
I
But
mean,
I think it's a
everyone
really
was
cool thing that's coming back.
yeah. I think during the Force Throw stuff, it was a deck you couldn't play at all, but now that that's gone,
Yeah,
everyone is sort of
Han 1 was unplayable during the Force Throw
yep,
meta, basically.
there's nothing you can do. But now people are starting to bring it back now that Force Throw's gone,
Yep,
and we'll
yep,
see if it
definitely.
continues to perform.
Yep, so unfortunately he lost another game at the start there, and then he went into game three against Honey Badger, who's a guy we actually know. It's Paul from Preston, and he was playing Thrawn Data Vault. I think that's a tough matchup for Dom, to be honest.
Yep,
I
definitely.
think that's just a green-blue hard control. I think, either Kira or Thrawn or Krennic, no matter who you stick at the helm of this, even Palp, it's a tough matchup for the Boba. They'll probably get ahead early and then just fall behind late game when they manage to stick an Avenger and stuff that you just can't get rid of.
I think even Thrawn likes playing against Boba because it has all these units with the when defeat effects, and you start throwing indirect
Yeah,
damage at him. He's like, okay, I got to
you
pick
can
and
kind of choose when
choose.
it happens.
Yeah,
Yep,
what when
and, and
defeat I
and
want.
stuff like the Onyx Brute and stuff as well. Like if
Yep.
you can trigger that when you want and heal the full four, I think Boba like literally wants to cry when that happens.
Yeah,
So
and Thrawn has a lot of ways, say like Cobb Vamp to cheat out even more units, has even more health to soak
oh
up
yeah,
more stuff, and yeah,
exactly.
in general as well, it seems to have more healing than any of the other green blues. So
Yeah, definitely. It's not really those decks don't really have access to healing, but Thrawn does. So
this
definitely
way,
one of the reasons to be playing Thrawn. I think he's probably the best green blue control leader right now, in my opinion.
in villainy at least, definitely. I'm
Yeah,
not
in the
sure.
villainy choice.
Not sure how much heroism is even trying those colours besides say Yoda and
Just Yoda, really, I think,
maybe
yeah.
Rey.
But I think that's definitely, yeah, maybe the Ray Data Vault, but that's like, it's not even like control. They just play a little guys and buff them up.
That's true.
So, looks like Dom made a bit of a comeback here, though, which is really good. He played against Yoda on the Jedi Temple, like we were just talking about. I saw this game from the sidelines. Yoda was able to come back quite a lot in the late game with stuff like Luke Skywalker. Obviously, the -6 is huge against Boba Fett. And also just the amount of restore it can put on the board can get past all that indirect that they got on the base early game. But Dom managed to pull this one back, so I think he managed to get down a Devastator and then a Planetary or something. So well played to Dom there. And then into a Darth Maul. This is the Darth Maul from set 5, correct?
Yeah, definitely.
With the Force base. Bit of an off-meta deck. I think it's kind of like analogous to Talzin, where it's like dealing inconsequential damage and then playing lots of Force units and then going for a flip and an upgrade on it.
I guess
Looks like Dom managed to win that one
is
too.
the idea to be a bit more aggro-y, I guess, because you have a leader that's a bit
Yeah,
more chunky and can hit the base
yeah,
a
it
lot
hits
more.
harder. Yeah, it hits harder, and you get to run stuff like Darth Maul's lightsaber too, which is a cool little thing. But it did obviously lose Force Throw as well, so
Yep.
probably a deck that is hurting a little bit there. And then it looks like his second to last was Major Von Reg on Coronet City. Is that yellow?
Oh yeah, I think
I
so.
think, yeah, I think that's a yellow deck. So that's probably like a super quick space aggro deck. Looks like Dom wasn't able to keep up with the pace here. He probably got Von Reg onto a ship on maybe like a TIE Phantom and just went to base.
Yep. Boba has no way to
Yep,
deal with a giant early game unit like that,
yep.
especially
The
as the
red blue
leader
villainy
as well.
problem, right?
Yep.
Yep, this is just, we were talking about this earlier, Red Blue Villainy just cannot get past the I will build a big unit early
Yep,
and you will just get smacked in the face by it multiple times.
can't even
And then it
merciless that
looks, nope,
leader.
can't even merciless because it's the leader. And then it looks like his finals matchup was Palp Colossus. Another one I thought would be a rough matchup for Dom, honestly, but looks like he managed to win this one. Maybe the Colossus hurt the Palp by only drawing 5 cards, and it's a little bit slower than the Thrawn and stuff. And obviously, we said like it probably loses a lot of the healing
Yep.
that Thrawn offers. So it looks like Dom managed to close it out there. So he ended up with a 304 record. I know he's a little bit upset with that, but I still think he put up a really good performance, and he should be proud of his performance on the day.
Yeah, he beat some good decks. I think especially the Palpatine is a good deck to beat.
Yep. So I think he's going to start training for Munich now, and we're going to help him get ready for it and stuff. And maybe he'll take this deck, and maybe he'll switch it up. We're not sure.
Moving on, we got Rich Roberts. I think he has appeared in quite a few of our videos, but not too many yet. So if you don't know him, I think he's done a few before. He did say the
Yep.
upgrading the starter decks video, and I'm trying to remember what else, but he ran a Cad Bane Tarkin Town. This is the one drop version of Cad Bane that you
Yep.
might have seen.
This is the new hotness.
Yep, this has been quite big everywhere, although apart from here at the tournament at
Yeah, there
Element
was
Games.
two Cad Bane element, like two Cad Banes was crazy. Like it was the most represented deck on day 2 of Bilbao, I think. Like that's how many transferred into day 2 or something. It was crazy, and there was 2 at Element Games. We really thought this was going to be more of a contender, and it was another reason I actually ended up taking Boss because of all their one drop units. You know, that's a free bounty claim.
Yep, you're
Um,
normally a Cad player.
Yeah, normally a CAD player myself as well. I haven't actually played around with the one drop version much. I know Rich has been doing a lot more than I have. So I know he's looking to play obviously the 2 one drops on turn 1 and really kind of trap the opponent into getting Tarkin Towned on turn 1 as well. You know, you play a one drop, they think it's safe to play theirs, and then all of a sudden they get pinged Tarkin Town because you've got a second one drop. That's the main trap of the deck. And it's still running the core of a Cad Bane with Forlom, Zuckuss, Aura Singh, and of course Greedo, Bosk, you know, all the classics. So it's a real sweet deck.
Yep,
I
definitely.
think it's lost a lot of its late game. It doesn't run Devastators in the main anymore, or the big Cad Bane unit, or the Jabba the Hutt trick package. It's not. It's kind of dropped all them to go for this more aggressive play style with the one drops. But I think it's definitely the right way to be playing Cad at the moment. It's definitely well better matched up into the meta, and I think it kind of is there to stop the hand twos, right? It's there to eat them up because they've got so much damage on their units and they don't really have board wide removal, so you can just kind of flood out, kill their things for free, and just absolutely just hit the base as quick as you can.
Yeah, I'm not too familiar with the CAD decks normally, but I think this is definitely a version that I'd be interested in if I was to try it. Because I think
Yep, definitely.
the whole killing the turn 1, no matter what you do, is quite powerful. You know, the double one drop, and they both have
I think
Underworld
it's
or
so
whatever.
hard to avoid.
Yep,
Like you can really trap the opponent into, you know, you either don't get to play on turn 1 and I get 2 units down, or if you try and play, I will kill your turn 1 and still get 2 units down. So that's the real strength of this deck is playing turn 1 and maneuvering that correctly.
yep.
So definitely a deck I think that requires a lot of practice actually and another matchup knowledge. But it looks like Rich took it on this day and he did quite well with it as well. So should we go over to his matchups? Okay, so it looks like Rich started off game 1 here against a Kira. It was the Golem guy that you played against as well.
Yep.
I think this is a horrible matchup for Cad Bane. I think Kira absolutely loves to see this matchup. She doesn't really care about her turn 1 plays. It doesn't even matter if it dies because she will ramp and control you, and her flip turn will probably wipe you out if you don't answer it instantly because she will barrage you.
Yep, and
So
surprisingly as
even
well,
worse.
get a few grit units, right? They can just soak up the
Yep.
pings and get even
I think
stronger.
if they'll play the devastating gunship, they'll get to kill one of your units, and then they'll eat all the damage up on it. I think this is a really, really hard game to start for Rich here. I'm not surprised he lost, sadly. I know Golem's a good player, and I think it's a deck that completely counters this CAD strategy as well.
Yep, awful. But as much as it hurts to lose your first game, normally it's also a good sign that you could submarine and sort of
Yep,
play
you can
against
kind of
weaker
make a
decks
redemption.
potentially.
Yep, definitely. Looks like next he went against Snoke Doggy Dog. It's an awesome name on the Boba Fett Data Vault. I think this is probably another tough matchup for the CAD deck.
Yeah, definitely.
Um, I once again like the amount of pressure that Boba Fett puts on incidentally by just putting indirect everywhere, and you kind of can't put it on your units because they're all 1 health, right? So you have to put it on your 25 health base.
There's
So
not a lot
eventually,
going around yet. You could just take it
nope.
all.
So eventually, you're either going to get hit by an OB or you're going to get Boba flipped onto a ship and probably get die in like 2 hits. So I think this is another tough matchup for the CAD deck. Probably the two worst matchups you would want to see
Yeah,
early on here.
awful start, and I can't help think the morale might have been pretty low after this because I think I would be the same if I just played against my two worst matchups
100%.
right away.
Yep. And then game three, he goes straight into getting another Gonk Gang member, Chris. That's a brutalizing of the of each other there. Sadly, we're cannibalizing each other. But that's Chris on Palp Yellow. I think this is a deck CAD probably loves to see. Um, I think CAD can just absolutely swarm the board, and Palp doesn't really have an answer. I
Yep.
don't think Palps even run OBs anymore. So
No,
other than Legacy Run, I don't think they have an answer.
I don't think the yellow one would really do anything. And what is the yellow
No.
one gonna steal? Like, what are you gonna steal a Zuckus? Like,
Yeah. Your best hit is probably stealing a Zuckus or a Ruthless Raider, but more than likely you're probably going to steal like a unit that's like a 3/1 or something that's
yeah.
like taking a bit of damage. Like it's just, I think this is one that Rich probably absolutely zoomed past before Palp even flipped, to be honest. So,
What's funny is
uh,
these two played each other in the locals the day before as practice, and Chris absolutely demolished him. So
wow, that's crazy. So
yeah,
yeah,
they shouldn't have played
looks
each
like
other.
as
They should have conceded right there the day before. So they
if
they don't
they
play
should have
against each
taken the
other.
draw here, man. Although they
Yeah,
would have got stuck in the draw bracket then, so that would have gone rough.
just play control all
So
day.
yeah, just play against control decks all day that can't stop but go to time. So I think this is a really hard start for Rich. Two bad matchups into a good friend. That's a rough start. And then he went straight into a hand to Data Vault here. I think this is probably the best hand to version to go against the CAD deck because of the extra health on the Data Vault.
Yep,
I don't think many people were running the Data Vault. I think ECL and Force were more popular,
definitely
but
now.
the
Yeah,
Data Vault deck is definitely one you have to watch out for. There's so many options you can do with Han, as we've said. This is probably a slower deck trying to play out stuff like Home One and Keller and Beck to really get value trades. And it looks like it was able to absorb all the damage from Cad Bane and probably survive with the Data Vault extra health and push out for the win.
and a lot of those units like Ewing, or not like Ewing, like Keller and Beck is basically Ewing, isn't he? They just bring out more units with them. That is even more damage just to tank up those
Yeah,
Cad Bane pings. It literally does nothing.
yeah, 100%. I mean, here's your best friend here in number five, the Pre-Vizsla. You want to talk about this one?
I mean, I don't even know where to start with this deck, man. It's like, I mean, it's a red-blue villain control deck. You've seen
It's like the
Bosk,
hardest of hard control, right?
yeah, you've seen Bosk blue. Even back in set one, you might have seen Vader one blue. They sort of,
Or Iden Red.
yeah, just like as many events as possible. And if they don't kill you with the Avengers or stuff they play late game, then they just decide to mill you instead. I think
Yeah, if you get to the Vigilance loop, it is over. Wrap it up, go to the next game.
yeah, Cat is fast, but I don't think he's fast enough to get through all this in time
Yeah,
before the healing
Cad
starts.
is not like he's not Sabine fast, is he?
No.
He's not Poe Dameron fast. He has to get a board established first, and I think if Previs is able to answer, and also Previs's ability is essentially a ping, right?
Yep.
Although you have to draw a card, it essentially is a killer unit for one because
Yep.
Cad's running so many one health units. So I think this is obviously a matchup no one knows because no one's really playing Pre-Vizsla, and it's such a hard control that Rich probably ended up just not having enough steam to push for the win.
Yep. And after playing against him, I know that he runs a lot of the top targets and the cards that have bounties on them that let you draw cards, which
Yeah,
essentially is just triggering the Previsler effect. And he can
yeah,
claim the top target really easily. So I think a lot of the time, his one health one drops were actually a double-edged sword there, and
yeah.
probably let him heal more than they actually did to base. So
Yeah, he probably, at some point played out a Death Star Stormtrooper and then it let the opponent heal 6 before it even got to attack.
yep.
So it looks like he then went into a Quinlan Voss, Tarkin Town. I don't think Quinlan's are really playing one drops at the moment, so probably his pings from the Quinlan thing were not very reliable. I think they're probably playing more like the two drops, like Adi Gallia and stuff like that. So I think this is probably nice for CAD, to be honest. It's probably still a pretty tough matchup because obviously whoever gets a good Tarkin Town or a good ping at the right time is going to win that. But it looks like Rich was able to close it out and probably just trying to stick more units, go wider than Quinlan's trying to.
Yep, and it's interesting that Quinlan's still sort of being played because obviously it got hit hard with the Force Throw ban. It's probably the deck that got hit the
Massively.
hardest, so it's good to see that
And
it's
then it
not
looks
completely
like
eliminated, I guess.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's still around, but nowhere near as popular as it was. I think Force Throw is really its big trick, right? Because it was running Spark, it was running Kira, Ahsoka, and then the thing that pushed it over the edge was that Force Throw on that last card in your hand.
Yep,
But that's not really around anymore. So I still think he's a strong leader though, and he's obviously a 3/7 as well, which is never something to scoff at. It's the best stats in the game.
definitely.
So and then Darth Vader, level 13/13, so that's Darth Vader yellow space. Do you want to talk about this one? This is a deck you know better.
Well, I think in general, Rich did well to run into this one because I think Vader just hates Cad Bane so much. I mean, we've played it where I've been Vader and you've been the Cad, and
Yep.
it's not even close sometimes.
No, you just eat it up. Your pings are getting kills every time you're triggering it. And even if they manage to build like a clone combat squadron or a Victor leader, you just have answers.
Yep,
You've got Tarkin Town, you've got everything you need, all the right tools, and it looked like Rich was able to close us out with the 2-0 here. So well done to Rich there.
definitely.
And overall, he finished 45th, so just a little bit below Dom. And he managed to make a nice comeback in the middle of the day there. But I think starting off with the two tough matchups probably hurt him a lot there. But
Yep.
still, well played to Rich, and hopefully he can make a comeback next time.
And a good job sticking it out, even though you had a pretty horrible start against the two most annoying decks for you to play against. I know that would have ruined
Yep,
me and would have considered dropping, but
yep. The mental game stuff in these tournaments.
next we're going to talk about Chris on his Palp Yellow, which we talked about briefly when we were talking about the Rich versus him matchup. So yeah, you might have seen the Palp Yellows sort of cropping up around at the moment. I think it's one of the more popular ways to run Palp right now, right?
I think so. I think it's probably the correct way to run Palp at the moment. It has a little bit more tempo in the deck. It doesn't kind of just like do nothing until it flips, you know what I mean? It doesn't just play removal and then flip and win the game. It has stuff to do throughout the game, and I think it's the one that uses the best of his ability. The sacrificing a unit, drawing a card, dealing one. I think it uses it the best in the yellow color. And it did really well in one of the sectors in America, right? I think it won the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not surprised that it's popular right now, but once again, not popular at Element Games. I think Chris was one of a few, so
There was actually almost no Palpatine at all, which is really rare
none
for
at
the
all.
UK because
Yep,
like Palp's
yeah,
always
we
been like the most
especially
popular.
Northwest,
Yeah.
like Northwest love Palpatine. Like we've seen in Liverpool, Preston, Manchester Meta, Palpatine and Sabine have always been traditionally just overrepresented,
Yeah.
but not so much this tournament, hey. So
No, not this time. I think maybe it's simply because the Palp Blues that are sort of going around aren't as good as like the yellows. I think the yellow one is
yeah,
much better, but a lot of the Palp players
I think
aren't
there's a bit
swapping it.
too much aggro, a little bit too much hand two, able to cheat out units early. I think the blue one can't keep up at the moment, especially because I think double one drop opening has become so popular recently.
Yep.
The control decks are really struggling to keep the board clear. Like if you power the dark side, a first order stormtrooper, and you still get hit by the Death Star stormtrooper, you're happy. You know what I mean? That's such a bad start for the control deck. He's still getting hit by three every turn.
Yep.
So I think the yellow is the right way to go at the moment, and it looks like Chris he does know this deck quite well. I know he was tinkering with it a bit before we went. It looks like he is running a bit of a classic one here. You know, the ISB agents. Aura Sing really helps the early game these days. And then obviously the big end game with the Reinforcement Walker, Cad Bane, Maul, and the Legacy run to get him there.
And the Legacy Run is one of the coolest additions to this deck from this set.
Yeah.
I know people have been trying it out with Thrawn, but Palp has such an easy way of getting rid of it, and
Yeah, even though
sometimes.
it's probably better in the Thrawn deck, I think
Yep.
the Palp is the better deck, though, if you get what I mean.
Yeah,
Like, he
definitely.
doesn't use it quite as well, but it's so good in this deck anyway that the Thrawn ones usually overkill anyway.
hmm
So, dealing 7 essentially with Palp and drawing a card is just fine. It's really good.
Yeah, and I think the problem with the Thrawn one as well is there's not many win defeated in yellow. So
Yeah, you've literally just got like P38 and that's it.
yeah, Legacy Run is what you play the deck for. And in here, yeah, like you say, a lot of the time to doing it twice doesn't is too much damage. You know, there's not enough
Yeah,
things to put it onto because you can't put it onto base. So
no, definitely a right call from Chris here to run 3 of them, and it's a sweet deck. It's a really fun deck to play against. Actually, I actually quite like playing against Palp Yellow. It feels like a real puzzle. So I'm glad that he took it, and I know he's looking to maybe take it over to Munich as well. So should we look at his performance on the day?
the
So
classic.
yeah, the classic. It looks like he met our good friend Poe Dameron Yellow in round 1 here, the one that beat you, but I was able to beat. So it looks like he was able to take down Chris as well. Probably just a bit too fast, right?
I don't think, and there's not much you can steal as well because it's all like cheap
Yeah,
units
what are you
once
going to
again.
steal? A Mining Guild TIE Fighter with 1 damage?
Yep.
I'm not bothered.
And even if there's a Poe leader on there, yeah, guess what? You can't have the leader. Sorry, off it
Yep.
goes back to his
Yep, off
base
it goes
zone.
back to the zone.
Yep,
Yep. So it just I think this is a rough one for Palp. I just don't think he really does anything here, and unless he gets a really good legacy run off, which is probably just a bit too late. It's like that 1 or 2 turn too late. So I just don't think there's a ton you can do against these space aggro decks here. It's
nope.
probably one of the worst matchups in my opinion.
It's just way too fast for him, unfortunately.
Agreed. And then it looks like game two he went against the Yoda that I beat later on, the Yoda Green Force. A real value package of a deck. You know what I mean? It's running the Keller and Beck's home ones, Big Yoda, um, Padawan, Obi-Wan, like all these super strong cards that were released over the sets that make the green value engine just so grindy. It was probably able to grind through Chris's late game or potentially just go a little bit faster than
Definitely.
Chris's. Yeah.
It's just a bit awkward for him, definitely. I think as well. I don't know if like the force stuff might be a bit awkward for the yellow to handle. I guess.
Yeah. And also the force units have a ton of health normally. Like
Hmm.
Pulp can only deal with so much in yellow. You haven't got your hard removal like blue. So I think that's a tough matchup. Probably Chris could have won, I think, if he ran that game back a couple of times, if he learnt the matchup a bit better. I think that's just, it comes down to, did Yoda slam down some big threats like home one? Did he get a good flip turn? And did Chris manage to steal something of value? Which Yoda can probably protect quite well.
Hmm. There is a lot to
So
steal, but yeah, I think the Yoda player probably knows how to. Because, like I say, with Palpatine being as played as he is, a lot of people know now how to play around his flip. And
yeah, people know Palp. You know what I mean? People
yep,
know what he's trying to do. They know his trickery with his flip being so strong. Game three, we already talked about this one, so we'll skip over it. But once again, he had to fight against Rich here, a Gonk Gang showdown, and I think Cad Bane was able to just go wide and quick enough to slam down this game here.
next was Avar on a Fortress Vader, so red, and it's force base as well.
Yep,
This one Chris won. I
yep.
think I'm not
I
quite
think Palp loves
surprised,
this.
right? Yeah, because this
Yeah,
guy's whole game plan is to ramp up and to play something big. Well, he just steals
yeah,
it, right?
yeah. He's just going to steal your best thing. He's going to play an even bigger threat, like something like a Devastator, like a green red hero deck. They just can't kill big things.
Nope.
They just what card are they using?
Yep, they
So I
can't OB
think
or anything, so they'd
they
have
can't
nothing.
OB, so I think Chris probably got like a reinforcement walker down, stole Avar Chris's damaged Mace Windu, and just won the game from there or something. You know what I mean?
Yep.
I imagine Chris won this one quite handily. Although obviously we don't know, he's not here, but I think that's a nice matchup for Chris. And then he went into a Boba Data Vault.
This
I
one
think this is a
is
matchup he knows well, right?
Yeah, this one's quite good though, because I think this matchup might be quite tough for the yellow Palp. There's no healing or
Yeah,
anything, unlike the blue version. So
agreed.
I think he did well to beat this one here.
And I think the legacy run's a big game changer in this matchup. Like you can kind of choose when it dies, thanks to the indirect damage, or you can just throw it into one of their giant ships and deal essentially 9 damage.
Yep.
So I think the legacy run's a huge thing, and also like if you manage to steal a big devastator, I don't think Boba can kill it then because you've stole his OB target.
Hmm.
So I think if you manage to get a really good pulp flip off, this is probably one that's going to be hard to lose from that point. But up until that point, it was probably in Boba's favor. But it looks like Chris managed to maneuver it really well here and get a 2-0 win.
We got another Poe Dameron here. This one though is Data Vault, which I
Yep.
think is a bit more common. There's been a few Poe Dameron Data Vaults flying around.
Yeah, it's been around for a little while now, right? This deck, it's a pretty cool deck. It's similar to the Luke Skywalker Data Vault. It's like an all-space mid-range deck that can go fast or can kind of play like the control against aggro.
Yep. And I do wonder if his practice against Poe at the very beginning of the tournament helped him win one of the rounds against this guy. Maybe put up
Yeah,
a bit more of a fight this time, know what to expect.
yeah, but once again, I think that Poe flipping out early and just putting on that essentially +2 damage pressure and can jump ships and stuff like that Pulp maybe can't deal with. Probably just a bit too fast for him, maybe.
Hmm. Yep, and like I say, even this one has Data Vault, so even more health. So he can't even like attempt to out aggro, which I know he could never do. But
Yeah. So, and then it looks like he finished out the Swiss part of the day with Darth Maul, Force Blue, which we talked about earlier. I think this is probably another one Palp likes to see. I don't think the deck's fast enough to kill Palp. And then if you play a giant Force unit or a big Devastator, it's just going to get stolen.
yep,
Also, Darth Maul runs a lot of units that are damaged themselves, or to do a ping, he has to choose 2 targets.
yeah,
So
that's what I
maybe
was gonna
that was
say.
freeing up the Palp flip. to like
Because
steal something good.
likely the Palpatine as well doesn't have too many units on board for Darth Maul to ping his own unit
Yeah,
and another one. So maybe he has one unit, which does mean he has to ping his own. So there might be a lot
100%.
of chances where you just can't use the ability.
Yeah, and then I think that being a deck that's probably trying to go aggressive against the Palp, but a leader flipping on 6 might just be a bit too late because Chris has probably pulled off a ramp by then, or he's stuck down a threat at some point to like really jam up the board. So I think this is probably one that Chris likes to see. It's kind of like a mid-range tempo deck, and I think Palp can kind of eat them up if they don't get off to a great start.
Yep.
So it looks like he managed to go 3-0 and 4 overall. Once again, I think a bit of a classic story is having a rough start and then coming back for the Gonk Gang boys here today.
Hopefully, this has sort of been the eye opener, and hopefully we'll perform better into the Munich tournament.
Yep, so that's we've gone over everyone from the Gonk Gang there, and how they got on at the day. So obviously we had a seventh place finish, a ninth place finish, and then we had the remaining three guys on 40th, 45th, and 49th. So all very closely bunched together there.
Yeah, I think there's a good showing from us all. I think next time though we'll do much better. I think Rich, Dom, and Chris were all having problems sort of choosing a deck there,
Yeah,
and the biggest problem was sort of figuring out what to run.
yeah, oh, 100%. You know, it's so hard to pick what you want to play when going into a tournament, especially when you know that the Munich was coming up and you kind of want to get a deck that you're good with, that you know, and then you want to be playing it for the next like basically 2, 3, 4 weeks. Really locking in a deck can be hard, especially because I think as a general rule, we all like to play different decks every week. We like to mix it up. We have pet decks, but we like to try different things and really mess around sometimes. So locking in on a deck can be tough for us.
Yeah, and I think a lot of us as well have sort of played through a lot less recently. So
Yeah, I think we've had a little bit of a downturn this set, but as you can see with the channel, we are back. We're back in and we're swinging,
yep.
and we're enjoying uploading the content for you guys. So I think that's everything for today's video, is it?
Yeah, there's nothing else. I will say though, you can expect a video on our Munich performance because we will be there. Uh,
Brilliant.
we'll have to say what kind of decks we're running. Stay tuned. Stay tuned for that one.
Yep, and we've got some other content coming up. Obviously, we've got our regular Friday videos, and we've got some special videos coming up as well, covering some of our recent other events. And basically, keep it stuck here, guys. Make sure you subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.
Goodbye.
Bye.